The black cells beneath the red keep breathed like a buried beast's slow, damp exhalations that smelled of wet stone, mold, and the faint coppery tang of old blood. Varys moved through that hush with soundless care, a moth-pale shadow in candlelight. He carried no torch himself. He let the flicker of distant sconces guide him, trusting the darkness the way a spider trusts the trembling of its web. In the deeper vaults, iron gates the size of city walls stood rust-locked, yet behind them no treasure glimmered. Instead, half-forgotten corridors slithered downward to caverns older than Aegon's conquest. Caverns once mined for wildfire, then walled up and prayed over. It was there that Qyburn, with Cersei's blessing, had installed his newest menagerie. 2 dragons, shackled by links of starfall steel and silenced by thick leather muzzles sewn tight with wire. Even dragons have nightmares, Varys thought as he descended another switchback stair and felt a tremor run through the stone. The larger beast, emerald-scaled Regal, dreamed fitfully, its tail scraping sparks from the floor whenever pain jolted it awake. The other, Viserion, lay curled like a dying cat, ribs heaving in short, shuddering breaths. Their hot scent rolled up the tunnel. Smoke, cinnamon, and death. He paused before the final turn. Above, the city slept under moon-blanched clouds, ignorant of the calculus unfolding in its name. A single misstep down here would cost tens of thousands their lives. But Varys, master of whisperwebs, had long ago accepted the arithmetics of sacrifice. He slipped a gloved hand into his sleeve and withdrew a stoppered glass sphere, no larger than a dove's egg. It sloshed with a ghost-green glow, wildfire, fresh, volatile, eager. But the sphere was only part of the lie he intended to weave around Cersei Lannister's throat. 2 Unsullied waited in the alcove beyond the next arch, helms veiled, spears reversed. They belonged to nobody, or so their lack of sigils proclaimed. Varys inclined his head, and they moved in perfect silence, following him into the yawning chamber where chains creaked and the air rippled with furnace heat. A single lantern burned near the entrance, barred behind a grate. Past its guttering halo sprawled a damp expanse of stone littered with bleached bones. Oxen, war horses, the innumerable offerings Qyburn had fed the dragons during their captivity. Viserion's pearlescent eye rolled toward Varys, pupils slitting into crescents. The dragon's desire for freedom, no, for revenge, was a palpable current buzzing under Varys's skin. "Steady," he whispered, knowing the beast heard tone if not words. He raised the wildfire sphere, letting its light skim across the bolts, locking the main chain to a carved basalt column. Melted slag clung where Dragonflame had already tested those links, warping them but not enough. A second tremor, heavier, shuddered through the cavern. Regal's great head lifted from the floor, nostrils flaring. Its roar, muted by the iron mask, became a deep horn note vibrating the walls. Now Varys gestured. The Unsullied split. One knelt at a winch wheel, the other produced a small flask of Maester-forged acid. Green smoke billowed as he poured the acid over the seams, and metal began to hiss and peel. Across the chamber, another set of chains groaned as Viserion stretched. Varys counted heartbeats. "When the bonds fall," he murmured, "we set the fires and run." The plan was as simple as it was monstrous. 2 dragons freed beneath the Red Keep would flee through the ancient mine shafts that honeycombed the city's foundations, shafts that once hauled wildfire to the surface for Aerys' final madness. Varys had mapped those forgotten passages. He would shepherd the dragons upward with timed alarum bells and a trail of goat carcasses soaked in tar. When the beasts burst into the open, he would detonate stockpiled wildfire caches along a pre-measured route. Small blasts, loud and lurid, enough for every witness to swear they had seen green fire spill from Cersei's private stores. All courtesy of the spider, unseen. Another chain snapped. Regal lurched, dragging a half-ton column a foot before the next shackle held. Acid pooled, gears squealed, and suddenly the column toppled in a boom that shook dust from centuries-old keystones. Viserion's muzzle split as the dragon forced its jaws wide. Stitching popped like bowstrings. A gout of orange fire sprayed sideways, illuminating every crevice. "Now," Varys said. He hurled the wildfire sphere beneath a cart of old wildfire pots. Qyburn had meant to study their design. The sphere shattered. For an instant, the cavern went silent, breathless. Then green flames blossomed like poisonous roses, licking outward in slow, oily petals. Varys spun, cloak flaring, and sprinted for the stair. The Unsullied followed, lighter on their feet than men in full harness had any right to be, yet the roar of released dragons outraced them. A bellow that broke into a triple chord as Viserion's chains gave way in molten clumps. They reached the first switchback. Behind them, Rhaegal's fire washed the ceiling, turning quartz veins to rivers of glass. The blast of heat shoved Varys forward. His sandals skidded on slime. He caught a rail, heard scales rake stone, heard centuries-thick doors burst open one after another like drumbeats. Up they climbed, emerging into a vast cistern whose ceiling soared 5 stories above a brackish pool. Moonlight spiked through grated vents high on the eastern wall. Varys whistled, one short, two long, and from the shadows came a score of barefoot children. Each carried a brass lantern painted with Tyrell sunbursts. "How many bells?" he asked the tallest girl. "3, my lord," she answered. "Sound the first when the ground shakes." The city must wake frightened but not screaming. The children scattered. Above, the night's hush had shifted. A subtle quake in birdsong, as if roosting ravens sensed ruin. Varys stepped onto a narrow catwalk and peered down a vertical shaft yawning beneath a rusted grate. Heat ballooned up the tunnel like breath escaping a dragon's nostril. Perfect. When he looked back, the Unsullied knelt on the stone, faces sheen-slick. They bowed in unison. "Our lives are yours," the nearer one said in the Valyrian of Astapor. "Live," Varys answered, voice soft. "I'll need them again." He strode on, ascending spiral stairs into the cellars beneath the black cells themselves. Here, tyrants of past ages had rotted. Here, wildfire once seeped through cracks to lick their bones. Now the cracks would belch fresh flame, and the innocence of King's Landing would whisper of Cersei's second madness. Cersei Lannister woke to thunder that had no storm behind it. The bedchamber was warm, though every brazier lay dead. A tremor shook wine from her bedside goblet. She rose naked, not bothering with robe or modesty, and pushed the balcony doors wide. Night air bit her skin. Below in the courtyard, black powder smoke coiled above shattered flagstones. A section of the lowest gallery wall sagged inward, pocked by a hole as wide as Drogon's eye. For one heartbeat, Cersei tasted terror, dragonfire. But the smell was wrong. She had known dragonfire in the pit, and it bore salt and lightning. This was sweeter, cloying, tinged with rot. Wildfire. She spun on bare heels, calling for Qyburn as she strode to the wardrobe. Ser Gregor lumbered after, wordless shadow. Armor clanged down corridors. Gold cloaks shouted. Somewhere a bell sounded, the plaintive note of the great September somber rung. Once, twice, then fell silent as if the ringer had been struck dead. Cersei lashed a velvet gown across her breasts, leaving it unlaced and back. Qyburn arrived, hair tousled like a startled hen. "Your Grace," he wheezed. "The prisoners." "What prisoners?" "The dragons." She froze. Her eyes burned holes through Qyburn's forehead. "How?" she hissed. "Fire in the vaults. 6 pyromancers dead." The beasts flew toward Flea Bottom. Toward or through? "Through," he admitted. "They forced an old mining vent. And, Your Grace," small explosions followed their path. "The color." "Wildfire." He dipped his head. Cersei's throat closed. Instinct screamed that someone had set the stage to damn her with the very tool Aerys had coveted, and she could feel the realm's heartbeat shifting already. Every lord who still feared Dragonflame would now fear her more. Every merchant who cursed levies would whisper treason. Ser Gregor closed gauntlets around the doorposts, waiting for command. Cersei straightened, shoulders squared, breast rising like a shield. "Send riders to every gate. Close the city. Any man who speaks my name in blame loses his tongue." "And the dragons?" Qyburn asked. Kill them, or better, drive them through the city until Daenerys sees her own children massacred in alleys. Let the blood be on the Silver Queen's hands. But Wildfire, enough. If we must burn the slums, let them burn. She turned away, jaw clenched. The children of King's Landing had cheered for sweet Queen Cersei once. Now they would weep green tears, unless she could twist the story tighter than Varys had planned. Smell guided Rhaegal through a maze of brick tunnels, each narrower than the last yet crumbling beneath his horned brow. Cold air kissed his snout as he broke through a final brickwork shell and emerged into the night sky, wings unfurling like storm sails. Pain screamed in every joint, but the wind, oh, the wind cooled the fever in his blood. Viserion shot skyward beside him, trailing streamers of flame that painted the rooftops emerald. The smaller dragon shrieked delirious triumph. Rhaegal banked west, instinct dragging him toward open sea. Too many spears bristled from the city spires. Below, torchlit streets twisted between blacked-out houses. Somewhere in the labyrinth ticked a line of green-tipped fuses, each waiting to vomit wildfire. Rhaegal did not know fuses or wildfire. He only knew hunger, rage, and the stench of men who had beaten him with poles. A bell clamored again, this time the iron tongue of the September's western tower. Its clangor sent pigeons exploding into flight. Rhaegal's tail hammered air. He roared, and the banked flames inside his throat roared back, surging up the channel of his breath. A torrent of orange flooded downward, licking the bell tower. Stone hissed, metal sagged, and cracks snaked like lightning across mortar. On the rooftops of the Street of Silk, laundresses screamed as embers drifted. Men cursed and pointed. Wildfire! They yelled, not understanding what color the dragon flame wore in truth. Viserion darted low over the Guildhall of Alchemists, where pyromancers stored their last sanctioned jars. The beast's claws smashed stained glass. A gilded dome folded like parchment. Green light blossomed inside, brighter than a sunrise, and the Guildhall erupted in a spear of emerald. The blast wave flung Viserion upward in a cartwheel of wings. 1,000 shards of glass flashed, each reflecting the dragon's pale hide, each proof that wildfire had consumed its keepers. Watching from a balcony atop Maegor's Holdfast, Varys closed his eyes against the flare. The piece had played exactly as he had arranged. Now the queen must dance in the embers while the realm watched with bated breath. He felt no triumph, only the cold arithmetic settling into place. Dawn found King's Landing shrouded in a sickly haze. Ash drifted like black snow. The sky above simmered green where pockets of wildfire still burned in hidden cisterns. Fishermen on Blackwater Bay watched from their decks as dragons circled the city's southern heights, occasionally stooping to pick charred flesh from smoldering ruins. Inside the throne room, Cersei sat on the iron throne in armor of beaten gold, visor open. Lords summoned in haste stood ranked before her, mostly minor bannermen who had yet to betray her, plus a bare handful of Tyrell turncoats seeking new favor. She let them stew. Their eyes darted toward blistered windows where smoke obscured the dawn. When the silence had tightened to a strangle, she spoke. "Some among you whisper wildfire," she said gently. "They call to mind my father's warnings about King Aerys." Her smile was thin as a blade. "I ask, where's your proof?" Lord Merryweather cleared his throat. The color, your grace. Witnesses swear green fire rolled across Flea Bottom. I have heard the same." Cersei's voice warmed as if approving scholarship. "And do they also swear I stoked those fires? That I spilled my own vaults?" No one answered. "Wildfire vaults," she continued, "that do not exist. Qyburn sealed every jar under the Guildhall, a house granted autonomy by my late father. If wildfire erupted last night, the alchemists own that folly." The lords shifted. Some looked relieved, others suspicious. "And the dragons?" asked Ser Haber Redwine. "We saw them with our own eyes. Creatures of Daenerys Stormborn, held in trust by me to protect this city from her." Cersei stood, cloak whispering across the blades of the throne. She loosed them, She lit the wildfire to hide her guilt behind green smoke. Varys, listening from behind the draperies at the hall's edge, felt a chill thrill his scalp. The queen had taken his snare and spun it. It would not save her. Too many orphan children now cried her name in fear, but the war of whispers had begun. He slipped away before the conclave could finish, ascending a servant's stair toward the Tower of the Hand. Tyrion should be awake by now, and the dwarf must know what price had been paid in secrets. Halfway up, a child's voice hailed him. One of his little birds, a boy no older than 8, sat cross-legged in an arrow loop with blood crusted on his cheek. "They say the queen blames the Silver Lady," the boy murmured, eyes wide. "Will there be more fire?" Varys knelt, wiping the boy's face with a damp cloth drawn from his sleeve. "Perhaps. Fire breeds fire, little one. But we must keep watch. When the streets run hot, the truth is forged." The boy shivered. "Which truth?" "The one that survives." He pressed a silver stag into the child's palm and rose, heart heavy. Above the city, the shriek of dragons faded to a distant rumble. Somewhere, Daenerys would be hearing garbled tales. Wildfire, mothers burned alive, her own children blamed. Rage would thunder through her veins, and if she marched now, King's Landing would drown in red and green alike. Varys walked on, steps echoing in narrow stone. There were more threads to weave. Ravens to send, gold to bribe, rumors to seed in distant courts. To save the realm, he had always believed, one must sometimes drown it first. Wash away lies in a tide of fear so that truth might surface shining. Yet as he exited into the pale light of morning, ash swirling around him, Varys wondered which shore the realm would find when the waters receded. Perhaps none. Perhaps that, too, was a price to be tallied. Sunset draped the city in a bruised purple glow, broken here and there by eerie emerald flickers where wildfire still guttered in sewer grates. The small folk gathered at crossroads, whispering accusations. Some at Cersei, some at the Targaryen queen, some at gods old and new. Bakers gave away burnt loaves. Septons preached doom. A hush fell whenever wings beat overhead. In a shuttered tavern near the Dragon Pit, a dozen ragged men huddled around a table. One unrolled a crude map, walls, gates, and a jagged line where the fires had run. "See," he whispered. "Wildfire, same as the Mad King. Cersei's done it." Another spat. "Daenerys freed her beasts. They burnt a blind beggar alive on Pate Alley." A third clutched a child's singed doll. "Both queens can rot. It's us that starve." A door creaked. A hooded woman entered with a basket of candles shaped like dragon eggs. She set them on the bar, free for the taking, and slipped out again. No one noticed Varys' sigil etched lightly on each wax shell. No one except the boy with the blood-scarred cheek, who fetched two and vanished into night. The spider's gospel spread candle by candle. Some whispered that lighting the egg would reveal the truth in its flame. Others swore the egg would explode if a liar touched it. Rumor outpaced wildfire now, crackling across rooftops, sparking in minds desperate for blame. In the Red Keep, Qyburn stood before Cersei with parchment trembling in his grip. "Citadel reports," he said. "Half the Reach believes you planned the fire to frame the queen across the sea." Cersei drank deep from a goblet of Arbor Red. "Half? I expected more. They say you kept the dragons for a year, fattening them on virgins." She laughed, short and harsh. "Then let them fear me." She set the goblet down. "Summon Euron. If the Iron Fleet still lives, I will torch Dragonstone before Daenerys can sail." "Your Grace," Qyburn hesitated. Euron may no longer answer. He passed the parchment. A smudged seal of the Kraken cracked under her nail. She read the single line, "I sail north to the real war. Keep your city." Cersei's finger whitened. "Traitor." She crushed the seal to dust. Then, slowly, she smiled. A smile Qyburn had learned meant someone would die soon. "If Euron won't kill dragons, then dragons must kill Euron. Spread word the Silver Queen's beasts feasted on his fleet. Paint their sails in wildfire across the gossip shops." Qyburn bowed. Lies to fight lies. Beyond the Blackwater, A lone galley beat toward Dragonstone under moonless sky. On its foredeck, Daenerys Targaryen leaned into a salt wind colder than any Essosi night. She had read Varys's raven thrice, each word etching deeper in her bone. Your children blamed, your cause poisoned. Return with fire and blood, or the realm is lost. She should have felt rage or grief at dragons tortured in darkness, but instead she felt a hollow calm. Rage had guided her once, and it had burned Meereen to peace for a season. This time she would burn the lie, not the city. Grey Worm approached, cloak snapping. "Shall we make ready to sail at dawn?" he asked. Not yet. She kept her gaze on the distant city lights, a scatter of red sparks amid green ghosts. "Tonight, I will fly. Alone." She nodded. "Rhaegal and Viserion know my voice. They will come. And if they did not, if chains and pain had stripped them of trust, then she would burn those chains from their flesh, even if it meant killing every pyromancer Cersei owned." Grey Worm bowed. "Your command." When he left, Daenerys closed her eyes. She felt for Drogon across the miles, a bond as real as breath. He waited on Dragonstone's cliff, wings mantled in the dark. She would mount him before the moon touched zenith, and by dawn the sky above King's Landing would carry the beat of 3 hearts, not 2. Somewhere in the labyrinth of the Red Keep, Varys would be steering whispers like a man steering wildfire down dry channels. Somewhere, Cersei sharpened words to pierce dragons. Daenerys opened her eyes. The sea rolled silver, the city flickered like a dying star, and the game moved to its final board. 2 days bled into one as rumor outpaced truth. Cersei's guards fought bread riots in Cobbler Square. Fisherfolk dragged charred corpses from the Blackwater. Merchants raised tariffs against ships flying both lion and dragon. The faith militant patrolled in silent bands, their leaders deaf to royal summons. At dusk on the 3rd day, thunderheads marched from the west, thick, brooding, violet with lightning. They gathered above the city as if called by prophecy, and when the first hammer of thunder sounded, every soul flinched, expecting green flame. Instead, black wings cut the storm. Drogon's arrival was a shadow blotting rooftops. His roar cracked the sky so sharply windows burst in the Red Keep's towers. Moments later, a second roar answered, hoarser, weaker, rising from the scarred ruins of the Guildhall. Rhaegal. Varys watched from a mossed parapet as Daenerys, white cloak streaming, guided Drogon in a sweeping dive over the city. She did not attack. She flew low enough for small folk to see silver hair whipping in the wind. Then she climbed in a spiral of warm updrafts, weaving between columns of rain. The second bell of the evening tolled, an hour early, confused by storm and dragons. Candlelegs glowed in alley shrines. Voices chanted half-remembered litanies. Fear and awe mixed until they were indistinguishable. High on the throne room dais, Cersei clenched wine-stained fingers around the arms of her chair. She watched Drogon's silhouette through shattered windows, jaw set. "Shoot him," she ordered. Ballista crews raced to crank new scorpions atop the ramparts. Bolts streaked upward, silver fangs chasing a black serpent. But Drogon banked with impossible grace, and every bolt crashed into rain-slick roofs. Then a roar rose from the city's belly. Viserion, freed at last, winging awkwardly toward his mother. Chains still clattered from his hind leg. Rhaegal ascended to meet him, yellow eyes wide. 3 dragons circled the city in widening gyres like hawks above Carrion. Cersei's face drained of blood. More bolts. None struck. Amid the chaos, Varys slipped through the throne room's antechamber and approached the dais. He bowed. "Your Grace," he said softly, "the realm will believe what it must, but dragons cannot be blamed on wildfire. The people see." Cersei's eyes burned. "Traitor," she whispered. "You did this." "I?"
No.
He looked at the sky. "The truth did." She lunged from the throne, but Ser Gregor's helm blocked her path. An unspoken refusal. She glared at the silent giant, then at Qyburn, who would not meet her gaze. The room itself seemed to draw back, as if the very stones feared her next breath. Varys bowed lower. Choose, your grace. Open the gates. Let the queen land in peace, and perhaps the realm remembers mercy. Or fire will choose for you. Cersei trembled. For a heartbeat, Varys thought she might yield. Then her lips peeled in a feral grin. Let it choose, she hissed. I have wildfire yet. She spun away, cloak whipping like a red banner. Qyburn scurried after her. Varys straightened, throat tight. He had counted on Cersei's pride, yes, but seeing it naked and ragged unnerved him. Pride could burn deeper than wildfire. He turned toward a side corridor. There lay the rookery, and ravens restless in their cages. A single message now: the lion roars green. He would send it to every lord who still took his seal. The rest would be up to Dragonfire and the whims of frightened men. Outside, thunder cracked again. Lightning lanced into the Red Keep's tallest turret, splitting stone in a bloom of sparks. In the brief white blaze, Varys saw dragons wheeling, saw rain lash their wings, saw the city huddle beneath them like a beaten dog. He exhaled, long and slow. The hourglass turned, and the sand left seemed thin indeed. The game would end soon, one queen, one fire, one truth, or none. He whispered to himself, a prayer in a tongue forgotten by all but spiders. May the realm survive me. Then he reached for quill and parchment, and wrote upon the storm. Night thickened as storm clouds sealed the sky, smothering moon and star alike, until King's Landing seemed an island marooned in black water. Only the guttering of green-tinged flames, here a sewer grate, there a broken window, marked where wildfire still gnawed at the city's bones. The hush that followed 3 days of panic was worse than any riot. An animal, anticipatory quiet, as though every rat, every flea, every frightened soul understood the moment before a spear is hurled and held its breath. Varys moved through that stillness clad in a plain gray cloak. No signet, no perfume, only the careful shuffle of felt-soled slippers against polished flagstones. Behind him, the two nameless, unsullied, ghosted like reflections without source. They had discarded their bronze masks. Their scalps shone with sweat born not of fear. Discipline stilled that luxury, but of the heat the city still radiated. They waited for the spider signal. He halted at a half-collapsed archway that once led to an oubliette for petty thieves. A ruby glow swelled beyond, casting sword-long bars of light across the stair. He felt it against his face, dry as a kilned pot. Dragonfire. The dragons had taken the ruined Guildhall for roost. Its dome provided height for launching, its gutted interior warmth. They would have smell as well. The scent of wildfire they hated, the scent of the pig carcasses his own whisperers had strewn to feed them, and now the scent of the mother coming. He inclined his head to the unsullied. One slipped off into the warrens beneath Visenya's hill to ensure escape routes remained unblocked. The other knelt, spear across knees, to hold this doorway. Neither expected to live the hour out. They knew his trade. When Varys emerged onto the ring of broken marble that once served the Guildhall's mezzanine, heat rushed him like surf. He raised an arm to shield his eyes. Below, in the light of 4 braziers propped on iron trestles, sat Daenerys Targaryen. No crown, no armor, only traveler's leathers dark with spray from the bay. Her hair lay damp against her back. Drogon crouched behind her, folded wings hiding half the ruin. Rhaegal scuttled along a cracked colonnade, picking masonry from between talons. Viserion lay curled at his mother's feet, chain still dangling, clinking softly whenever the dragon breathed. Grey Worm waited inside the nearest arch, 8 unsullied at his shoulders. His eyes never left Varys. The eunuch bowed, chest to knee. Your Grace, thank you for granting audience. Daenerys's gaze held the fire's reflection, twin beads of molten gold. You wrote of truth, she said. Show me. Varys straightened. Truth, like smoke, cannot be held, yet one may see its shape when wind reveals it. I come bearing wind. Drogon's nostrils gusted. Varys pretended not to flinch. The shape is a queen in lion's red who will never yield the throne while breath remains. 3 days ago I loosed these chains. His hand flicked toward Viserion's fetter. to wake fear greater than Cersei's cruelty. I hoped that fear would force her lords into submission. Daenerys's lips parted, less in surprise than in calculation. "You freed my children," she said. "Yet you endangered them, and the city to lay blame on another." The city was endangered the hour Qyburn muzzled dragons. He chose each word as though it were a tile in Myrini's Sivas. "I gambled lives, yes. I have done so many times. But I placed my coin on a table Cersei set." "You lit wildfire?" Grey Worm said, flat as an iron door slamming.
"No."
"I shattered a single sphere." Varys met his eyes like a man accepting sentence. "Enough to ignite Qyburn's carelessness. The rest burned where it lay hidden." He raised a hand, forestalling recrimination. But wildfire served only to start a tale. A tale the queen above would shape until it fits her hand. Tonight she will enact the ending. A rain of green flame upon this hill. She intends to detonate the deepest vaults beneath the Red Keep, claiming Daenerys's dragons loose the fire in frenzy. Half the noble host attends her now for a midnight feast in Maegor's Holdfast. They will bear witness and burn. Viserions wounded hiss answered where words could not. Regal roared overhead. Ash sifted from the cracked dome like gray snow. Daenerys stood. Heat radiated off her like a forge. "How do you know?" "Little birds. They perch where ravens fear to land." He drew a slim cylinder from his sleeve. A tin whistle child made. A scout slipped inside the Holdfast kitchens an hour past. 400 clay pots have been stacked beneath the hearths. The pyromancers claim the dragonfire leaking through fissures has ripened their contents. Makes them hotter than summer sun. A spark will serve. She took the whistle. Its mouth bore dried blood. "Your bird died." His song concluded. Drogon shifted. Even through the rush of flames, Varys heard Grey Worm's armor creak as his hand found spear. The Unsullied were protective, but Daenerys' silence reined them back. At length she said, "You ask me to trust that Cersei will kill her own court and blame it on me, that you helped plant the story." Her brows knit. "Why tell me now?" "Because truth is shaped by those who arrive first when the ashes fall." His voice thinned until only she heard. "I served your house once before Robert's War. I swore to keep them safe. I failed Viserys. I feared you beyond the narrow sea. Now I seek redemption." Grey Worm scowled. "Too late, perhaps. Yet I offer something no man else can. The keys beneath that feast. My last bird remains hidden. He can open the Sally hatch to the vault where the pyromancers feast their pride. If we move before the hour turns, we can flood the vaults, drown the flame, and seize the queen." Daenerys considered Drogon's rumble. "And if you lie, then the vaults explode regardless. I imagine you will burn me before the fire reaches here. Either way my tale ends." Silence stretched. Wind keened through shattered ribs of the dome. Regal stalked across the edge, tail balancing, eyeing the humans below. Daenerys raised her head, shoulders squaring in a gesture that echoed a line of conquerors. "Very well, we fly. Drogon and I will hold the keep from above. Grey Worm, take 20 of your finest to storm the vault. If wildfire lights, cut the river gates and drown it." Grey Worm bowed stiffly. "Master of Whisperers," her gaze pinned Varys. "You come too. Guide us. Then you will face judgment." He bowed deeper than before. "A spider's duty." Rain drummed coffin nails on the tiled roofs as Grey Worm and his spearmen threaded the postern stairs at the base of Maegor's Holdfast. They wore no cloaks. Black skin and greased armor drank the storm's sheen. Varys followed in their wake, heart rattling like dice in a cup. Ahead, one Unsullied bore a coil of hemp rope meant for prisoners. Another carried a sealed clay jar of sea salt slurry, anathema to wildfire. Above, the thunder of wings boomed each time Drogon banked around the tallest spire. Sporadic scorpion bolts sought him, their flight blurred by sheets of rain, but the great dragon twisted in easy contempt. Where bolts missed, they shattered marble balustrades. Fragments shrieked down courtyards, killing torchbearers who never saw their death. Inside the keep, revelry smoldered. Cersei had reserved only 36 high lords for her midnight council, but she had stocked the outer halls with Tyrell levies and Frey hedge knights to toast Lannister courage. They drank smoky wine laced with saffron, the same hue wildfire sometimes took when simmering at low heat. When thunder shook the rafters, men shouted choruses of Myrcella's song, though few remembered the words. In the scullery, a lone boy scrubbed dishes. His eyes flicked to the dripping invaders as they slipped past. He did not cry out. Varys touched fingers to his lips in salute. The boy flashed a quick silver grin and vanished down a laundry chute. Grey Worm held up a fist. They halted at a brass-bound door painted with vines. From beyond came the low chant of pyromancers, glyph-heavy prayers more alchemical than holy. They invoked the crone who sees, the stranger who waits, the fire within earth. A deeper boom rolled underfoot, wildfire drums stirred by stirring flames. Varys whispered a sequence of numbers. The Unsullied who carried rope produced a slim key and slid it into the lock. Tumblers fell. Grey Worm signaled 2 to lead. They burst inward, shields high. Varys pressed against the jam, a voyeur to sudden violence. The vault's antechamber was lit by oil lamps suspended over long tables heavy with meat. 6 pyromancers in robes of acid green stood chanting, hands on bowls of chalk dust. Guards, Lannister halberdiers, gaped as spear points found their throats. One tried to bellow. A thrust pierced his breast, puffing wine vapor from his nose. Grey Worm strode to the far arch where a second door stood barred. He inspected the brace. Oak, reinforced by iron struts curving outward like ribs around a cask. He motioned to Varys. "It opens inward," the eunuch said. "Lever behind the altar." My bird described it. 2 Unsullied dragged a struggling pyromancer to the lever. At sword point, he lifted the brass yoke. The door grated aside, revealing a cavernous cistern lined with 30 rows of shelves. On each shelf, clay pots nestled like swaddled infants, 500 at least. Braziers burned between stacks. Heat wafted, pungent, metallic, sweet. Atop an iron plinth in the center squatted a hearth the size of a wagon, stoked by bellows manned by pages. Over its coals rested a cast-iron boar. Wine basted its flesh, spattering into blue tongues of flame. Around the plinth, lords in brocade feasted. Lord Tarly, Ser Haber Redwine, 2 Fossaways, a dozen lesser knights, Qyburn proper in Maester Grey's, and Cersei Lannister, crown of gold wreathed by rubies catching firelight, sat at the board's head. She looked up. Her smile froze. Grey Worm did not hesitate. "Loose!" he roared in the guttural Giscari tongue. For spears hurtled. One struck the hearth. One missed. One pinned Ser Haber to his chair. The 4th took Qyburn in the shoulder. He collapsed with a shriek, clutching splinters of bone. Panic did not find the lords quickly. Wine had numbed them, but wildfire fear is contagious. The sight of Unsullied amid stacks of green jars spread terror swifter than plague. Chairs toppled. A braised ham flew as a shield. Lord Tarly drew steel and charged. Cersei thrust him aside. "Do not fight!" She stabbed a finger at the nearest pyromancer. "Fire the cradle!" The man hesitated. He saw Unsullied between him and the fuse line. An arrow from Grey Worm's bow found his chest. He fell across a brazier, robes igniting emerald. Flames licked the straw-wrapped pots on the shelf above. "Flood them," Grey Worm ordered. 3 Unsullied rushed forward, smashing salt slurry across fuses. Steam exploded in white plumes. It hissed like serpents devouring eggs. Varys darted behind them, frantic for vantage. He saw Cersei retreat across a narrow bridge of planks spanning a sump pit. Fire behind her painted hair and armor amber. She clutched a dagger no longer than her palm. Grey Worm pressed his advance, shield forward 1 step, 2. Lannister guards rallying from side passages through quarrels. Most skittered off his round shield. One lodged in his thigh. He did not slow. Then the worst sound. Clay cracking, slow, dull. A jar above the pyromancer's body had softened in the heat. Green froth oozed from a fissure. A drop fell onto the brazier, fizzed, flared. In the gallery high overhead, the last bird signaled. A shrill pipe repeated thrice. Varys's heart jolted. That meant water gates had stuck. Flood channels jammed by rubble from years of neglect. No water would drown this fire. He shouted, "Retreat!" Grey Worm's eyes flicked. He saw the jars split widen, saw the fire below, calculated the distance. He barked a command. Unsullied reversed in perfect formation. They dragged the salt jars with them, spreading its slurry as they went. Varys seized a lord in gilded doublet. Fossaway, he thought, and shoved him toward the exit tunnel. Men broke ranks, stumbling after safety. Cersei's bridge burned at one end now. She stumbled, smoke-stinging eyes, but reached the opposite platform. Lord Tarly caught her, half carrying her toward a ladder leading up to a dovecote ventilation shaft. Varys should have followed. Instead, he turned back. Grey Worm wrestled with the dying pyromancer's body, rolling it off the brazier to smother the fire's root. The corpse ignited anyway. Meat popped. Viserions' wounded hiss echoed in Varys's memory. "Go!" the eunuch urged. Grey Worm kicked the brazier aside. Coals scattered across flagstones. Flames scuttled, starved of tinder, yet the cracked jar dripped faster. Another pot directly above bulged. Varys tore a tapestry from the wall. A lion and stag entwined, and tossed it to Grey Worm. Together they beat at the flames, pushing them back toward the central hearth. Sweat blurred vision. Air tasted of copper soaked in honey. The cracked jar reached tipping point, toppled, shattered on stone. A waterfall of wildfire spilled, clinging to flesh, to fabric, to air itself. It spread in a slick radius. Grey Worm thrust Varys through the archway. He followed, pulling down the brass lever to slam the oak door. Heat blossomed behind the barrier. Iron hinges sang. The unsullied rank burst forward, sweeping Varys ahead, spearmen thrusting stragglers aside. They found the scullery boys shoot and flung lids wide. Men and women, noble and common, slid into darkness of grease-slick clay. Behind them the brass-bound door deformed. Green tongues lapped through seams. Smoke roiled, starving oxygen. In the chute, bodies piled like eels. Varys gasped in rancid fat fumes. A hand closed on his ankle, yanking downward. He let himself fall. Cool wetness kissed skin. He splashed into a cistern filled with dishwater and ale sleech. Others followed, coughing. Grey Worm landed last, knees bent, feet cracking the brick lining. The rank above rumbled. An eruption shook the keep, muffled by yards of stone. Dust rained into the cistern. Then stillness. Varys rolled onto a ledge. Someone wailed. Lord Fossaway had lost an ear to heat blister. Grey Worm pressed a cloth to his thigh, lips set but eyes calm. "Your bird failed," he said. "The gates failed," Varys corrected. "His message saved us all the same." "Not all." Grey Worm touched his bleeding leg. "But enough." Varys rested his head against slime-smeared brick. "Cersei." Grey Worm's silence spoke answer. The queen crawled from ash at dawn. She emerged onto the western parapet of the holdfast, hair scorched, gown fused in places to charred skin. Lord Tarly lay dead beside the ladder, lungs melted by noxious smoke. Cersei's own lungs clawed for air, pulling raggedly. Rain had ended. A pink dawn glimmered off puddles, reflecting the ruin behind her. Half the keep's lower vaults gutted, windows blown out like eye sockets. Below, small folk crowded the bailey, faces upturned, awaiting judgment. Of gods or queens, they no longer knew. When Cersei raised her arm, the crowd recoiled, uncertain if she beckoned mercy or retribution. She wanted to speak, to call them swine, to claim survival as proof of right. Her throat rasped soot. No sound came. Then a shadow passed overhead. She looked up, and hope drained as surely as blood from a cut throat. Drogon descended, backlit by sunrise, wings bronze in morning glare. On his shoulders rode Daenerys clad in blackened mail and white cloak, wind streaming hair silver and storm bright. Regal and Viserion flanked, though Viserion's flight wobbled from pain. 3 dragons lowered to the shattered courtyard like gods settling upon a battlefield. Their talons cracked flagstones, their breath condensed in hissing curls. The crowd knelt before the dust settled. Some wept, some prayed, no one cheered. Fear and awe are sisters that seldom laugh. Cersei drew herself tall despite burns tearing flesh. "Another butcher," she croaked, voice threadbare. "Come to carve the lamb that remains." Daenerys dismounted by a toppled pillar.
Grey Wormel.
Imped at her side, spear upheld. He called, "Surrender." Cersei spat black phlegm. "To a usurper suckled on lies? The realm is mine." Daenerys stared. No triumph, no scorn, only sorrow. "Your realm is ash." Cersei's shoulders shook, not in sob, but in laughter crushed by pain. "And you will give them what? Chains of dragon flame? Tell me, Silver Queen, how will you rule a graveyard?" "I will not." Daenerys's hand lifted. Drogon's head lowered so his eye met hers. "The graveyard ends with you. Do it then. Burn the lion's last cub." Cersei spread arms, cloak falling away to reveal boils, blistered flesh. "Show them the mercy of Daenerys Stormborn." The courtyard held its breath. Varys, emerging with Grey Worm's survivors through a postern gate, watched the tableau. His heart thundered weakly. Would mercy or math guide her hand? Daenerys raised her other hand to the crowd. "Look upon her," she called, voice carrying clear in dawn stillness. She kept dragons in chains, hoarded wildfire, and fed fear. She set flame to her own house to frame another. "I freed my children, and they bear witness now." Drogon roared, not the war cry that shatters walls, but a deep, mournful chord. Viserion answered with a rasp. "I will not burn you," Daenerys told Cersei, "nor shall I cut you down. The realm will judge. You will stand trial." Cersei's laughter died. "No chains can hold me while lions breathe. Then I will hold the lions." Daenerys nodded. Unsullied circled. Cersei backed one step, then another. She glanced up the keep wall to where scorpions had pivoted in vain. The parapet bristled now with spears held by men in worm sigils. Even the mountain was gone. Ser Gregor had not been seen since the first explosion. Rumor claimed he still wandered corridors seeking his queen. Alone she faced the ring. Slowly, unbelievably, Cersei knelt. Her knees hit stone, black shards of dress rustling. She bowed her head. Not in surrender, Varys saw, but in calculation. Already her eyes plotted tunnels back to power. Chains clinked. Unsullied bound her wrists with iron links too thick for hacksaws, then bound ankles, then fastened a length to Drogon's saddle hook. Grey Worm forced her to heels. Daenerys turned to the crowd. "Citizens of King's Landing, this lioness will stand before a council of the realm. Lords of every house will hear her crimes. They will decide her fate. If they deem her guilty, her blood will feed the soil she burned." No cheers, yet heads dipped in wary acceptance. Better a foreign queen who spoke of councils than the mad widow who had planned green fire. She mounted Drogon. Grey Worm signaled. The dragons spread wings. Air thundered. Dust spiraled upward as 3 shadows bore into sun's fire. Trailing chains, hope, fear, possibility. Varys watched them rise, cloak billowing. His plan had lived, if barely. Truth survived, shaped anew, unpredictable. Would the council acquit or condemn? He could not know. But he had restored dragons to sky, broken wildfire's secret grip, unseated the lion. The realm might yet breathe. He turned to Grey Worm limping toward triage tents. "Commander," Varys said softly, "I owe you my life." Grey Worm paused, sweat glistening. "Your life belongs to the queen now. I will answer." They walked side by side across rubble. Under their feet, green embers hissed, then flickered out at last. The council convened 12 days later in the scorched shell of the dragon pit. Dragons roost on broken arches, their presence less threat than reminder. Lords arrived by sea, by river, over King's Road, errands under Azure Falcon, Starks grim behind snowflake banners, Martells veiled against northern chill. Tyrell regents, the young Lord Paxter Redwyne still bandaged, the black-armored Baratheon bastards who claimed Storm's End. 8 Septons wore gray ashes on white robes. The High Septon had died of fever 2 winters past, leaving no equal. Daenerys stood before them in plain wool, crownless. At her right, Tyrion, gaunt from months of exile. At her left, Grey Worm stone-faced. Behind, Varys leaning on a cane, burns on his hands. He refused Maester salves until Judgment Day. Cersei was led forth in chains red-corded. Silence rippled. No lion banners flew. Kingsguard helms bore no enamel, only listless white cloaks soot-stained. Ser Lancel led the escort. His cousin, once removed, avoided her gaze. She craned neck, scanning lords with half-closed lids. Reading, weighing. A faint smile hovered. Tyrion's voice rang brittle. Cersei of House Lannister, called Queen of the Undulls, stands accused of regicide, of the murder of innocents through alchemic fire, of treason against the realm. She lifted chin. I answer, not guilty. Your trial will determine truth, said Prince Doran Martell, speaking for Dawn's seat, his gout-swaddled legs hidden. His calm set tempo. We shall hear witness. Witnesses came like mourners. Pyromancers shackled, weeping, told of jars stocked under Cersei's order. Gold cloaks spoke of secret convoys fetching green cargo from cellars to bowels. The scullery boy described high lords eating boar while fuse lines hissed. Varys testified last, voice low, answering questions on motives on his own part. He admitted guilt in freeing dragons but insisted Wildfire plan predated him. He provided letters from Qyburn ordering new jars cast months earlier. Maesters confirmed handwriting. The council recessed thrice to deliberate each new revelation. Evening's light slanted crimson through Broken Dome when lords returned. Lord Edmure Tully presented verdict. By tally of 9-4, Cersei Lannister is guilty of crimes set forth. Murmurs. Cersei's smile faded as if painted on dew. Sentence required unanimity among principal houses. Lord Glover's voice shook as he voted death. Lord Redwyne faltered, offered exile. The Tyrell regent sought life imprisonment. The Starks demanded head. Hours dragged. Dragons shifted impatiently. On each exhale, embers glowed. Night cold seeped into bones. Still no sentence. Daenerys listened. She spoke only when frustration hissed across seats. This indecision bleeds the realm. Her tone carved marble. She trades delay into hope. Cersei straightened. Hope is my crown. Daenerys faced the council. Let a new custom be born. As dragons broke chains, let councils break vengeance. I see judgment to the flame of truth. She strode to Drogon and drew steel. Not a sword but a dagger of dragonglass. She carved a deep line along her forearm. Blood welled dark on pale. She lifted it high so moonlight struck. If my reign seeks justice, not conquest, let my blood stand with yours. She pressed the wound to Cersei's shackles. Blood smeared red over lion etchings. Gasps rippled. Prince Doran's thin voice cracked. What does this mean? That I will not kill a queen with dragonfire, Daenerys said. I will not turn her loose to plot return, but I will bind her to the thing she feared, the realm's memory. Cersei shall live, nameless, laboring among the common folk scarred by her fire, marked by my blood as witness. Let her sow barley where ashes lie. Let every child ask, who is she? And let every mother answer, she was queen and she chose fire. Silence held, taut. Then Lady Sansa Stark rose. I find mercy in this. She offered cautious nod. Lord Glover followed. One by one, houses bowed assent. Redwyne wept relief. The tally turned unanimous. Cersei spat. You condemn me to life worse than death. Daenerys's voice gentle. Then redeem it. Chains rattled. Unsullied led Cersei away to slate-roof barracks outside the city walls. She would sleep on straw, guard seed stores, toil in fields where wildfire stripped topsoil. Each dawn she would glimpse dragons soaring and remember power shaped by fear. Varys closed his eyes, chest loosening. He felt weight of years lift. Though guilt remained, future breathed. Daenerys approached him later, as embers of council's torches died. "Your path is unpaved," she said. "Stone or sand, I have yet to see. I will tread whichever serves the realm," he replied. "Then serve. Whisper to me truths without green fire." She offered a band of silk. He wrapped burned hands, bowed. When she turned away, he let a sigh slip, an exhale of web thread cut, binding him to one queen at last. Above, 3 dragons wheeled through stars blossoming behind storm's shredded veil. Their silhouettes crossed moonlight like runes etched by gods newly woken. Below, King's Landing stirred beneath its scars. In alleys, candle eggs melted down to nubs, wax tears sealing cracks in cobblestones. Children gathered shards of green glass to trade as lucky charms. Bakers fired ovens again. Bells rang in tentative melody devoid of alarm. The realm had survived wildfire and rumor, lion pride and spider's gambit. Dawn's pale ribbon promised toil, not triumph, but life endures in toil. And somewhere on a blasted hillside, a woman once called Queen knelt in soil still warm, pressing barley seed into earth, cursing dragons overhead even as she prayed the crop would grow. So the game at last found a board wide enough for mercy, and the spider, having spun his final strand, stepped back to watch the web hold fast. Rain returned a week after the council, soft at first, a mist that silvered the burned stones, then a patient downpour that bled soot from every crack and carried it through gutters into the Blackwater. King's Landing smelled of wet ash and steamed salt, of plaster dust and singed cedar rafters torn down before they could collapse. It smelled, too, of new beginnings. Lime washed the color of dawn spread across scorched walls, herbal poultices simmering in cauldrons for the wounded, barley mash fermenting in washtubs where aloes hoped to coax a harvest of coin from misery. Each dawn, Daenerys walked the broken length of the Street of the Sisters, hooded against drizzle though rain never bothered her dragons. Regal perched upon the shattered spire of the September's remains, preening what scales he had not lost to Qyburn's shackles. Viserion nested in the dragon pit's highest ledge, recovering strength with each careful flight across the bay. Drogon, restless sentinel, ranged farther, his silhouette now and again startling ship crews who thought the Age of Fire begun anew. By decree of the Provisional Council, relief wagons rolled in from Rosby and Duskendale heavy with grain. The wagons left again burdened by refugees too scarred to rebuild. The Queen had promised safe passage to any who wished to start anew in lands unsinged by wildfire, and thousands took the offer. Those who remained pieced hearths from ruin, their lives drawn tight to the heart of the city where reconstruction promised wages. In the half-demolished shell of the Guildhall, masons rigged winches to hoist broken dome fragments clear of the nave. Steam from still-burning vaults hissed whenever rain found a fissure. To one side, a large tent of rough-spun canvas housed Maester Gorman's triage ward. There, beneath fluttering lanterns, Grey Worm sat on a trestle bench as the Maester's assistant unwound the dressing on his thigh. Pus had been flushed twice a day, and though the gash no longer oozed, it still glowed pink and angry. "You will march soon enough," Gorman assured, voice muffled by a cloth mask steeped in camphor. "But do not hurry bone." Grey Worm answered with a silent nod. That his limp lessened each morning mattered more than pain. Duty did not wait on healing. As he readied to leave, the tent's flap lifted and Varys entered, plum-colored cloak beading water. The spider carried no entourage. Grey Worm stiffened, unsure whether to salute or warn the Maester. Varys offered a shallow bow, arms folded within wide sleeves to disguise the tremble of burned hands. "I come to ask after your wound, Commander." "Pain earns respect," Grey Worm said. "It tells flesh to harden. A soldier's philosophy." Varys allowed a faint smile. "Still, our queen needs her captain whole." "What does she need of you?" Whispers as ever. The realm's ear is full of voices. Some sing hope, some sow rot. One such croak reached me at dawn, a point of interest concerning Casterly Rock. Grey Worm narrowed eyes. "Tyrion will handle lions." "Will he?" Varys's tone remained gentle, but under it lay iron. Ravens from the rock bear the seal of Ser Kevin, yet their words taste of another's tongue. Truce, they say. We accept the council's verdict. We will supply gold. He tilted his head. Do you trust such grace, Commander? Grey Worm shrugged on leather pauldron. I trust spears. Precisely. May I see our queen? Grey Worm considered, then jerked chin toward the canvas door. Follow. They found Daenerys alone atop one of the sept's broken buttresses. Mason ladders leaned every which way, but she had eschewed them, climbing hand over hand along courses of half-loosened marble. Hood thrown back, she let reins stripe her hair and watched the city hum below. A wounded hive, yet alive. She smiled at Grey Worm, then Varys. I needed height. It reminds me of Meereen. Before the chains fell, she extended a pointing finger. Look, see how the mud wharf glitters? Lanterns strung for the first night market since the fire. They barter freshwater eels for grain. Varys stepped to the parapet. The climb had left him breathless. Still he steadied voice. Life rushes to fill silence. Yet not all that rushes brings peace. Casterly Rock's ravens praise your grace's mercy, but inside the same ink they question your claim. They whisper of a boy with a dragon banner. Young Griff, Daenerys murmured. Tyrion's tale from the Rhoyne. Connington's Mummerking. Aegon, if his story holds. Word now says his cell sails have seized Tarth and drift toward Storm's End. Euron Greyjoy skirmishes them at Cape Wrath. The realm, it seems, sprouts claimants like mushrooms after rain. Grey Worm's hand found spear haft. Let us end them before they root. Daenerys watched gulls wheel above the bay. Steel cannot be everywhere. I promised these people safety first. If I sail now, King's Landing may fracture. Her gaze settled on Varys. Is the boy true? Blood can be forged like coin, he replied. Forgers are cunning, but coins ring false if struck wrong. I would weigh this prince in person. Taste the metal. She chuckled without mirth. You offer to ride west and pry secrets. My network stretches farther if I walk among its threads. He raised bandaged hands. I did much from shadows. Now I step into light in your service. Grey Worm's expression remained granite. If you go, take two unsullied. Varys inclined. I would be honored. Daenerys nodded. Go then. Learn song and singer. Her eyes flashed. If the tune offends, I will silence it. 4 days later, a column departed the city by the Rose Road. Varys in a plain litter, accompanied by 2 unsullied riders and half a dozen Stormlanders sworn to Storm's End but left idle by the truce. They bore no banners. The litter's side panels disguised Varys's presence. Rumor claimed a minor scribe ventured west to confirm grain levies. Past the walls, autumn spread in gold drifts. Charred leaves from orchard fires, sparked days before the battle by stray bolts, flecked the roadside. At night, campfires burned low, for brigands prowled emboldened by war's ebb. Yet Varys did not slumber. He whispered across flickering flames with smugglers, ferrymen, hedge priests, threading coins for facts. Each morning his ledger filled. He learned that Casterly Rock steward, Davin Lannister, had recalled Sel's words from the Golden Company under clandestine contract. Yet the company marched east with the Purple Dragon Prince. He learned that Qyburn's lesser acolytes had fled the city carrying jars of green fire disguised in dredged-up wine casks. They now traded fragments of dragon bone from Viserions' molted spurs for safe passage west. He learned that the sparrows, weakened yet unbroken, preached that Daenerys was the stranger's bride sent to test faith. More troubling, he learned Cersei had not vanished into anonymity. The queen laborer, shackled among the barley rows north of the city, had gathered a following, women widowed by fire, men crippled by dragon claws, even a few disgraced knights who preferred her harsh certainty to Daenerys's new dawn. At twilight they knelt where she watered seedlings and whispered "Your Grace" into the wind between furrows. While Varys traveled, the capital forged governance. On the first day of the 10th moon, Daenerys convened the Second Council in the roofless shell of the small hall. Stone cleared of rubble, carpets salvaged from minor manors laid across bare floor. Benches were hewn from storm-felled pines and still scented of sap. Around a round table they gathered, Sansa Stark, representing Winterfell until Jon Snow returned from the Wall's East Watch muster. Her hair smelled faintly of pine smoke, and her manner was a steadying anchor amid stir. Ser Davos Seaworth, whose plain speech won fishermen's trust. Prince Doran's nephew Trystane, quiet but hawk-eyed, bearing his prince's words as scrolls sealed in red wax. Lord Glover and Lady Mormont of the North. Ser Haber Redwine still swathed in bandages but determined. Lady Olenna's grandniece Lyanette Tyrell, summoned from Highgarden's ruins with engineers to plan aqueduct repair. Tyrion wore no pin of hand by his own request. A dwarf does not stoop easily once crowned, he quipped, but Daenerys valued his tongue and kept him at her right. Grey Worm, in polished cuirass though his thigh yet ached, stood sentinel behind her. The foremost topic, food. Wildfire had blackened 4 districts of Flea Bottom, ash-laden soil poisoned wells. Without swift import, winter would starve the city. Lord Redwine pledged grain from the arbor. Lady Tyrell, barley from Highgarden's granaries. Davos swore ships to ferry cargo. Sansa promised venison herds if northern roads thawed. When debate turned to coin, Tyrion spread parchments like cards. The royal treasury is dust, he said. What jewels remain lie in Dragon Gullet. He smiled to soften. Yet Dragon Gullet yields intimidation. Lenders prefer surety. Lady Tyrell asked, "What of Casterly Rock's pledge?" Tyrion's smile vanished. Rock gold is measured in memories now. Our minds ran dry before Joffrey's wedding. Murmurs rippled. Daenerys spoke. I will not burden small folk with new levies, nor beg banks that once funded slavers. She drummed fingers on table. Instead we mint new coin.
Ser Davos blinked.
From what metal? Dragon bone, Tyrion said slowly, realization dawning. You mean to cast small bars from shed spurs? Daenerys nodded. Each bears my sigil. Scarcity gives value. Symbol gives faith. Merchants may doubt a queen, but none doubt dragons might. Lord Glover laughed, a sharp bark. Paying debts with death's promise. It bought Rome an empire, Tyrion replied, though none knew the reference. They voted, motion passed. Lyanette Tyrell would oversee coinage. Davos would ship bone by barge. Tyrion would negotiate exchange rates with bravos. The council adjourned as dawn warmed lichen-scarred walls. Word of Dragonbone coin reached markets within hours. Moneylenders grumbled but accepted good steel pawn as collateral. Bakers accepted scales for loaves. Blacksmiths hammered sigil-mark burners to test authenticity. A month later, the first obels emerged. Pale ivory stamped with the 3-headed dragon entwined about a barley stalk. The design had been Maester Gorman's idea, fire married to sustenance. Meanwhile, builders reclaimed waterworks. Under Lady Tyrell's guidance, aqueduct repair Bega. And where wildfire fissures had cracked main pipes, engineers smelted iron replacement joints in makeshift kilns. Children fetched water from the river in pairs, paid in barley cakes. Viserion, curious, glided low over scaffolds. His shadow panicked some, thrilled others. Soon folk grew used to his patrol. They swore no brigand dared stone a workman with a dragon watching. But not all accepted the new order. One night, 3 coin molds melted in sabotage. Kiln bricks smashed, water spilled upon molten ivory. Investigation led to a tanner's apprentice who vanished before dawn. Tracks suggested flight north toward the Barley Enclave where Cersei labored. Grey Worm doubled patrols, but seeds of dissent lay buried beyond walls. South and east, tides of war lapped. On Tartha's blue shores, Prince Aegon, young, golden-haired, earnest, held court in Evenfall's hall, robed in purple lined with silver trout scales. His Sellsword company patrolled villages, paying for grain in gold dragons confiscated from Highgarden storehouses they'd captured along the march. He spoke of justice, of burning chains, of mother's love lost but avenged. Many small lords bent knee, thankful for coin and a seeming Targaryen bloodline without dragons overhead. Euron Greyjoy's longships harassed their supply barges. Each dawn, gulls found new wreckage along Stormland crags. Charred masts, heads spiked, sometimes whole corpses lashed to figureheads with entrails draped as garlands. Euron left messages carved in driftwood. The sea belongs to one madman at a time. Such tidings reached King's Landing in drips. Tyrion grimaced at each raven scroll. A young dragon without fire will freeze when a kraken coils. He muttered to Sansa over supper of eel pie. Sansa wiped fingertip free of grease. Then better the kraken coils and keeps him busy while we mend. Her eyes held northern dusk hue, cool and determined. Tyrion studied her. In another life they had been wed. The boy he had been would never have guessed he might sip wine beside her willingly. She bore scars, some seen, some veiled. Yet she spoke with clarity shaped by them. When she suggested forging an alliance of widowed ladies to oversee orphanages, Tyrion found himself watching her lips more than notes. Respect took odd forms. On the 6th week after Varys' departure, a hooded messenger arrived before the small hall just after dusk. Rain slicked her cloak. A covert limp suggested recent flight. She carried a coin of dragonbone snapped in half lengthwise. Guards recognized the token, Varys' sign for urgent audience. They ushered her through kitchens, past pork haunches smoking for next day's feast, into a side chamber where Daenerys conferred with Grey Worm, Sansa, and Tyrion. The messenger bowed but did not remove hood. "From the west," she said, and produced a fold of parchment sealed with beeswax impressed by a spider sigil. The queen broke seal. The message was short, penned in Varys' clipped hand. "The rock holds no lions, only empty claw. Kevin dead these 2 years. Davin hosts the mummers Aegon in secret. Sellsword's garrison the mines. Gold flows east before the kraken strikes. Cersei stirs serpent among grain senders. 2 riders share honeyed verses in shadow. Trust none with rose blood. I ride south to Trace Wick where wildfire still bleeds. Send answer on raven wings." Daenerys read twice, then passed it to Tyrion. His shoulders slumped. "Kevin dead. I hadn't heard." Sansa frowned. "Rose blood? Lyanette Tyrell?" "No," Tyrion's voice stiffened. "My Aunt Jenna was red wine by birth, but wore roses in her braids. Yet she died of flux last year." He rubbed temples. "We must parse the code." Grey Worm pointed to final line. "Wildfire bleeds south." Daenerys traced words. "Old Town's pyromancers once stockpiled near Summerhall ruins," she recalled from histories. "If renegade alchemists fled there, they could threaten Dornish borders." Sansa pulled chair. "Talk plain. What danger rides?" Tyrion exhaled. "Aegon sits funded by rock reserves, Cersei poisons grain caravans, and stray pyromancers brew fresh fire in the south. If Varys is right, we hold peace on borrowed breath." Daenerys rose, cloak swirling. "Then we breathe deeper. Summon Lyanette. I would test rose scent." Grey Worm, double guard around aqueduct crews. Tyrion, draft Raven to Varys. Tell him to send proof if Rock aids pretender. We will confront illusions with light. Lyanette Tyrell answered summons in dew-green wool, hair bound with leather cord instead of maiden's ribbon. She listened to accusations with parted lips, shock-reddening cheeks. "Your Grace, I swear on my mother's memory, I know no plots. Highgarden is near ruin. My toil lies here." Daenerys studied her. "I trust deeds more than vows, so continue mince but submit tallies nightly. Any coin unaccounted for, we discuss." Lyanette's gaze hardened. "As you command." She curtsied and left. Behind composure, though, Tyrion glimpsed the sting of suspicion. Roses pruned too harshly may sprout thorns. He resolved to smooth matters later if time remained. Night deepened. Lanterns winked along battlements. Daenerys retreated to her private solar, a circular chamber once used by Maegor's queen as reading room. Charcoal sketches of her dragons adorned walls, unfinished, pinned by bone pegs. She found rest rarely. The city slept yet dreams roiled. Images of Myrines fighting pits, Astapor's red streets, Valeria's shadows. She pressed palm to cold stone sill and whispered Valyrian prayer taught by Missandei, words the translator once murmured for courage. Soft creak behind. Tyrion entered carrying 2 cups steaming. "Chamomile from the arbor," he offered. She accepted. "No wine. None. I require a clear head if I must solve spider riddles." He sipped, then set cup on sill. "I fear we pursue too many embers at once. Aegon to the south, Euron on the tide, Cersei sowing dissent within arm's reach. Any one spark could reignite the city." She blew steam. "Fire can cleanse or consume. We must guide it." He leaned back, studying dragon sketches. "What of Jon Snow? Ravens say he rides south with wildling archers. Another king without crown." A small smile. "Jon rides as friend, not claimant." Tyrion raised brow but did not press. Thoughts moved to Sansa. Would she welcome brother or dread more dynastic entanglement? He finished tea, bowed. "Rest if you can, your grace. Dawn's council will want clarity on coin." After he left, Daenerys stroked Drogon's charcoal silhouette. "Guide the fire," she whispered again. In barley fields north of the city, Cersei watched dawn through drizzle. She knelt, wrists chained to leather belt to permit hoe work but forbid free reach. Shackles chafed. She wore strips of linen between skin and iron, else infection would have rotted flesh weeks ago. Around her, the so-called ashbound, they had named themselves overnight, grunted as they tilled. Sweat beaded beneath coarse shift. Her hair, once brushed to honeygold sheen daily, had grown lank and dull. Gray roots emerged like frost-limbed roots twisting upward. Yet her eyes shone vivid green as ever, slow-burning wildfire. An overseer, a one-armed sergeant of Unsullied, strolled rows, spear reversed as walking stick. Each morning he counted heads, checked seed sacks, spoke no words unless theft caught. The ashbound feared him, but Cersei read emptiness behind mask. No purpose save command. Men like that could be redirected. At noon, storm clouds parted. Sunlight gilded each barley blade. Workers paused to stretch. Cersei knelt by a cracked amphora repurposed as water jar. A young woman collapsed nearby. Blisters wept on palms. Cersei offered cloth torn from her hem. The woman blinked gratitude, whispered, "Your grace." Cersei said nothing, but an ember flared. Loyalty still breathed. Later, she drifted among rows, murmuring encouragement. They responded in secret nods. By dusk, she had learned names. Palla, widow of a chantler. Joss Stickle, once a rat cook scullion. Sir Maynard Rutt, a hedge knight who lost title after pledging to the Sparrow faith. Seeds of an army? Not yet, but seeds sprout if rain returns. That night, ashbound fires burned low. Cersei squatted near one, hands cupped to flame. Rudd approached bearing a bundle, a straw effigy crudely shaped. "From the children," he said, placing it by her feet. Tiny sticks jutted as swords. Dragonbone shavings for eyes gleaned from dropped coin slivers. Cersei understood the children feared dragons overhead. She lifted effigy, held it where sparks danced. "We defend ourselves," she told the small faces gathered beyond glow. "Against fire, water answers. Rivers flow beneath this soil. Old tunnels. Find them, widen them. Water will hobble dragons, cool wildfire, feed our barley." Eyes widened. She returned effigy. "Remember." 10 leagues west, across rolling scrub, Varys' litter paused near an abandoned toll house. Evening light sank, smearing crimson across clouds. The Unsullied scouts signaled all clear. The Stormlanders collected deadwood for camp. Varys emerged stiff-backed and stretched. He felt old, older than King's Landing's walls. Tonight they would cross into Reach Marches where Golden Company outriders patrolled. Caution required secrecy, but Varys sought contact. After cookfire sparked, he walked along brookbed, pretending to relieve himself. In truth, he searched for shadow. A raven called once, then again prearranged countersign. From brush stepped a woman cloaked in dun wool, face streaked with road grime. Her right ear bore the tattoo of the Silent Sisters, though she was no Septri servant. "Report," Varys said. "Lannister treasure," she whispered Valyrian code swift. "Moved by night to the Mander. 3 barrels, 2 heavy, 1 light. Escort of 4 sellswords wearing kraken brooches. Destination, Brightwater Keep." "Euron's Reach," Varys mused. He asked after Aegon. "Settled at Storm's End. Garrison 6,000. Plans feast for petty lords next fortnight. Will announce betrothal to Asha Greyjoy. Document draft secured." She handed pouch. Varys replaced with coin, nodded dismissal. She vanished as though river swallowed. He unrolled parchment. Shaky script but clear. Marriage alliance to mend sea hostilities. If Asha married Aegon, Euron would face divided fleet. Perhaps conjure reason for violence. Intrigue braided upon intrigue. Back at camp, he found the Stormlander captain strumming lute quietly. Soldier's voice hummed a lament for King Robert's lost summer of youth. Varys sat, listening. Music filled dusk like balm. He wondered, after webs untangled, would any man sing of spiders? In King's Landing, Jon Snow arrived astride a rangy gray gelding, cloak sodden with travel mud, ghost padding silent at heel. Wildlings, 24 archers, 1 giant named Kark, herded shaggy horses behind. At Mud Gate they were halted by gold cloaks, but Ser Davos intervened, leading them through cheering throngs. Many small folk recalled Jon atop Drogon in rumor. Seeing him on ordinary horse made legend reachable. Children ran alongside chanting, "Snow King!" In the throne room, its windows boarded where wildfire blast had warped casements, Jon knelt before Daenerys. "Your Grace," he began, but she lifted him quickly, lips brushing his cheek in greeting. Murmurs flitted. Some lords exchanged wary glances. Tyrion toasted reunion of ice and fire, prompting laughter. Sansa observed quietly, gauging bonds and fissures. That night, feast tables bore smoked boar gifted by Carhold. Mead flowed. Jon spoke little, content to watch. He noted Grey Worm's limp, the empty chair where Hand once sat, the hush when Rhaegal's roar echoed outside. In the hush, he felt shift, like storm brewing beyond horizon. When Daenerys slipped from dais to breathe midnight air, Jon followed to parapet. City lights gleamed, far fewer than last he saw. He asked of burdens. She spoke of coinage and sabotage. He spoke of wildling scouts sighting snakes with golden bellies around Blackwater Mouth, the Kraken Fleet sign. She listened. They spoke of dragons. Rhaegal had healed enough for full flight. Viserion still favored one wing. Jon remembered how Drogon's back felt above King's Landing smoke. He wondered if he would ride again should need arise. Daenerys considered his gaze but left question unspoken. Below, ghost-paced perimeter, nose twitching. Wolves sense change. At dawn bell's chime, council reconvened to debate war footing. Rumors now thick. Euron had captured 3 grain galleys off Duskendale. Aegon's envoys courted houses along the Honeywine. Into this clamor burst a raven from Varys, delivered straight to Grey Worm by Spider Code. The scroll bore only coordinates and one phrase, "Fire in the Reed." Tyrion spied the coordinates, Summerhall's husk. "Reed," he mused. "As in Marsh or House Reed?" Jon leaned. "Crannogmen seldom leave neck." Daenerys considered. "Wildfire caches lie beneath Summerhall's ruins. Aerys ordered them after the tragedy. If rogue pyromancers found them, they could strike Dorne or Reach." Sansa asked, "What do we guard, city or realm?" Silence. Daenerys stood. "Both." "Jon, will you ride south with half the Unsullied and my Dothraki outriders? Seek Varys, secure Summerhall. Grey Worm leads the city's defense." Jon nodded. "Fortnight's march if roads hold." Tyrion exhaled. "And Aegon? His feast nears." "Feasts end," Daenerys said. "Dragons do not." She dismissed them. Outside, rain ceased. Sky cleared blue as cornflower. Rhaegal swooped low across the river, steam curling from nostrils. Small folk pointed not in fear but pride. King's Landing's guardian. That night, Cersei dreamt of Wildfire's song. hiss and roar merging with infant's cry. She woke mouth tasting copper. She had bitten tongue. Tools clanged. Dawn watch replaced night. She feigned rest until patrol passed, then crawled to rotten stump marking field's edge. Using nail pried from hoe handle days earlier, she scraped dirt. Moist earth oozed. Below, she found what she'd glimpsed when seeds were planted. A paving stone older than the field, etched with glyph of Valyrian house. She tapped hollow echo. Tunnel. Water seeped through crack. She smiled thin. Water to drown dragons, indeed. Over weeks, under guise of pre-dawn toil, she chiseled crack wider, stones stacked behind stumps. Children smuggled reed baskets of soil away. At night, they mapped tunnel's direction, south toward the city's underbelly. If opened, it could deliver sabotage inside walls or flood barley patch to starve grain shipments. Pin blame on Queen's negligence. Rut urged caution, but Cersei pressed. "We need sign," she hissed, "to draw allies. A torch in deep night." Torch came soon. Reports of Euron's victory over Grain Fleet. Famine fears rose anew. Cersei instructed Ashbound to exaggerate spoilage among barley. Powder mildew spread by handful of wet straw left to rot. Overseers panicked. Grey Worm dispatched healers, but rumors outran remedy. Small folk insisted Dragon Queen's plan failing. Meanwhile, Cersei shaped effigy straw into lion heads sewn onto tunics beneath rags. One eve, during storm, Ashbound gathered in tunnel pit for first oath. Torchlight flickered across grimy faces as she spoke of loyalty betrayed by Dragon's Queen, of bread stolen by Northmen, of lions battered but not broken. They answered with low growls, a pride stirring. Beyond Summerhall's ruins, Jon's host arrived to find Varys awaiting amid toppled columns bathed in twilight. He had come alone, laden with satchels of scrolls. Wildlings bristled at his approach, but Jon raised hand. Varys bowed. "My prince, apologies, my lord. I bear tidings grave." He gestured to rubble where vegetation choked charred beams. Wildfire caches indeed lie beneath, but not sealed. Alchemists came, drained some, left tunnels primed for collapse. One collapse could send fire downstream along aquifer to Dornish orchard wells. He delivered map. Jon studied. Why waste such weapon on orchards? To sow famine, blame dragons for scorched water. Varys's eyes glittered. And drive Dorne to Aegon's court. Jon spat dust. Sabotage ends here. We flood vaults with river water. They worked until dawn, wildlings hauling timber, unsullied rigged pulleys. Ghost-nosed rubble growled at chemical stench. By dusk they breached a cistern wall, sending torrent cascading into caverns. Where green liquid pooled, water hissed into steam. The sun set on pillars of fog curling skyward. In aftermath, Jon burned all remaining wildfire pots using controlled dragonfire. Rhaegal, flown south at Daenerys' order, strafed fissures from above, his flame-bright orange testament that dragonfire could cleanse. Wildlings cheered. Varys, protected behind a dune, noted color of burn. No green, all impurities boiled. Yet casualties struck. 2 Dothraki warriors died when gas ignited before they cleared tunnel. Their funeral pyres lit the camp. Jon knelt, whispered prayers to old gods he barely knew. Varys mourned silently, each death a tally in his ledger of regrets. But success traveled swift by Raven to King's Landing. Daenerys read the parchment atop rampart at dawn, relief softening war-hardened brow. She ordered bells rung thrice, victory chime. Small folk poured into streets, unsure reason but sensing hope. Eel vendors shouted 2 for 1. Children chased each other with paper dragons. Cersei watched from barley fields, chain tugging, as faint bells drifted. She spat in soil, each bell a nail. Yet nails may be pride. Euron's longships anchored off Shipbreaker Bay 3 days later, hull scarred but triumphant. He stepped onto cracked stones of Cape Wrath wearing a cloak stitched from sailcloth, each patch bearing sigil of house his krakens had gutted. Aegon's outriders spotted fleet, panic roiled, yet Euron sent envoy not threat. A crate holding iron harpoon tipped with dragonbone scale and a note, gift for wedding. At Storm's End, Prince Aegon considered gift. His hand, Jon Connington, warned treachery, but Sellsword captains licked lips. Harpoon rumored to pierce dragon hide, and marriage to Asha promised sea mastery. They urged acceptance. Messages darted across narrow sea lanes. Euron demanded bride price. 30 wildfire jars delivered under moonless night to a cove near Sharp Point. Aegon's quartermaster balked. Where find wildfire? Connington produced rumor of alchemist hideout at Brightwater Keep. Those same renegades fleeing city. Decision set. Sellswords would raid Keep for jars. Varys's agents captured copy of plan. A hooded rider pressed horse through night to Jon's camp. Jon scrawled reply to Daenerys. Krakens and dragons may clash sooner than thought. Daenerys gathered counsel. Tyrion argued striking first, ride dragons to Storm's End, burn ships. Davos warned sea winds unpredictable near Shipbreaker. Stormborn queen or not, a squall could down dragons. Sansa suggested sending envoy to houses Swan and Cairn, sowing division within Stormlands. Grey Worm urged blockade by sea with captured Lannister vessels. Debate raged until night candle burned low. Finally, Daenerys stood. We choose all paths. Ravens to Stormland lords, blockade in Blackwater Bay to prevent Euron's entry, dragons on standby at Dragonstone. We move, but not blindly. Tyrion sighed. A dance of knives. And of webs, she said, eyes on map. Where is Varys now? Riding toward Brightwater with Jon, Grey Worm answered. Daenerys nodded. Then the game quickens. May the web hold. Late autumn winds scoured King's Landing. Builders set final capstone over repaired aqueduct. Crowd cheered as water rushed clear through newly channeled pipes, splashing into fountains bone-dry since siege. Dragonbone coins CLI. Nked in hands of masons who had not touched silver in years. Markets bustled under tarps dyed Tyroshi purple. Girls sold sweet-root pies. Bards composed ballads of the Dragon Queen's mercy. But under barley fields, a tunnel yawned larger each night. Cersei's followers had broken through to an ancient storm drain. By torchlight, they crawled toward city foundations. She felt life surge, purpose beating like war drum. Soon, she promised her pride, floodgates would open. Water would burst beneath city grain silos, rot reserves, shift blame to Queen's incompetent engineers. Panic would starve loyalty. Then a lion could roar again. In the dark near her, a child scraped mortar from old stones. His lantern cast wide green glare, glass tinted by dragonbone slivers. Reflection danced in Cersei's eyes. Careful, she whispered. Green can blind, but green also burns. She envisioned wildfire once more under throne, under dragons, under queen. Perhaps renegade pots still hid near Brightwater. Perhaps Euron would deliver. She would be patient. Spider webs unravel eventually. On the march to Brightwater, Varys rode beside Jon under hooded cloak.
Fog drifted, diffusing dawn.
Jon asked, "Why risk yourself so often? You could guide from safety." Varys's breath steamed. A web's strength lies in strands touched by spiders' feet. Feel matters. Jon studied him. You freed dragons, nearly burned city. Regret. Regret is manacles on the mind. I choose chains only when they serve. Ghost trotted ahead, ears twitching. Downhill, the low stone walls of Brightwater keep peeked through olive groves. War banners absent. Only a black smoke plume rose from central courtyard. Varys frowned. Too early for cook fires.
Jon signaled halt.
Wildling scouts crept. They returned pale. Gates ajar, corpses piled by well, throats slit.
No Sellswords, no alchemists.
But charnel smell thick, wildfire residue. Jon cursed softly. Too late, they entered cautious. Inside stable they found prints of iron-shod wheels, carts heavy. Jon knelt, touched sticky green smear. They took jars. Varys exhaled. Euron has his gift. He discovered note nailed to Bailey Post. A scrap of ship parchment. Let the world see green dawn. I blind dragons with their own fear. A kraken sigil sealed. Jon crushed paper. Shipbreaker Bay will burn. Ravens beat wings north and east. In King's Landing, bells pealed alarm. Council met under storm candle. Tyrion's face drained as he finished reading. If wildfire detonates amidst Euron's ships near Storm's End, wind could carry vapor inland, burning not just castle but coast villages. Sansa's hand trembled. My sister Arya hunts along that shore. Grey Worm laid dagger on map. We intercept fleet before they reach cove. Dragons, Davos said. Storm or no, they fly. Daenerys clenched fist. Rhaegal and I will strike. Viserion follows as shield. She fixed Tyrion. You sail with Davos, guide blockade. Sansa oversee city, a test of trust. Sansa's eyes widened, but she bowed. The North will keep faith. Preparations whirled. Rhaegal fitted with new saddle of hardened leather. Viserion's wing braced by maester-wrought struts. Daenerys donned scaled armor, gift from Qohor. Grey Worm limped to yards, drilling recruits. Alchemists loyal to queen-tested seawater upon stray wildfire drips. Learning salt water slowed ignition, a hopeful defense. That night, as torches flickered, Daenerys climbed Rhaegal's neck. Winds gusted, banners snapped. She glanced back at city. Lamplight flickered like a constellation. She whispered, "Hold, and I return." Rhaegal leapt. Air roared. Viserion rose behind. Dragons arced south over Blackwater. Wings rhythm to heartbeat. Ghost howl followed faint. At Barley Fields, Ashbound watched shapes cross moon. Cersei gauged wingspan. One smaller than Drogon, one wounded. Perfect. She whispered to Rut. Begin tonight. Flood tunnels by dawn. Flood hearts by dusk. Rut nodded, vanished. Water started seeping through cracks, soft at first. No one noticed. Over Shipbreaker Bay, storm brewed. The bay earned its name. Clouds boiled charcoal. Waves heaved as if breathing. Euron's fleet cut swells in ragged line. At its heart, 3 longships towed barge laden with tarred casks. Lanterns flickered on deck. Alchemists coaxing fuses perhaps. Rhaegal screeched, diving. Sailors shouted. Scorpions cranked. First bolt missed. Second struck strut on Viserion's brace. Splintering wood. The dragon veered but steadied. Daenerys felt Rhaegal's muscles tense. She loosed reins. Dragonfire plunged, crimson fountain bathing nearest prow. Tar-soaked timbers flared orange, then green as hidden wildfire aboard kindled. Flames cascaded, licking rigging, crew, sails. Wind caught, hurling particles across decks like meteors. Euron stood on deck of silence, face lit by emerald glare, arms spread. Yes, he roared, as though victory, not loss. He yanked lever. Harpoon of dragonbone launched, tore through sky trailing chain. Rhaegal banked. Shaft grazed flank, slicing scale like parchment. Blood spurted steam. Daenerys cried out, gripping harness. Viserion lunged, jaws clamping chain midair. With wrench of neck he dragged harpoon wide. Chain snapped. The bolt fell into sea. Silence reeled. But barge beneath towed wildfire shuddered. Flames crawled along seam. Euron's laugh cut across thunder. Burn, pale bitch. Barrels ignited. Green explosion funneled upward. Geyser of light. Pressure wave hurled Rhaegal sideways. Daenerys clung as world spun. Heat scorched flesh through armor. Viserion, shielded by own flame exhale, diverted worse. Yet shockwave traveled across black water toward cliffs. One monstrous green spearpoint aimed at Storm's End. Jon, arriving with cavalry along headland, saw spear bloom. He spurred horse, breathless. Wildlings shouted prayers. Atop fortress walls, Sellswords froze. Cunnington cursed. Too soon. Wind shifted. Rhaegal, wounded, regained altitude, exhaled torrent of orange to counter green. Flames collided midair. A swirl of alchemy and dragonfire. Where they met, explosion fractured, deflected by updraft. Green hail rained harmless into sea. Yet silence turned broadside, decks ablaze. Euron howled again, arms blackened, cloak aflame. He hurled axes at ascending dragon, insane grin flashing. A falling spar crushed him, Kraken drowned by own tempest. Ships nearby, their own decks ablaze, cut rigging to flee, but wind drove them toward rocks. Viserion soared above, unleashed blue-flared fire. Wings strut glowed, but held. Ships shattered. Wildfire spilled, but sea churn suppressed. The bay burned with mixed colors, storm water quenching, then reigniting. At last, dawn broke, painting scene in muted gold. Charred hulls drifted, crew clung to flotsam. Storm's ends defenders lowered drawbridge for Dragon Queen's landing. Regal touched down hard. Daenerys slid off, leg buckling from bruise. Jon ran to catch her. Blood trickled from Regal's wound, but breath steady. Connington knelt, sword surrendered. He spoke, "I fought for a dream, but dragons prove blood. I yield." Aegon absent, he had ridden inland to woo House Caron. Connington would send Raven of defeat. Daenerys accepted, but eyes still searched water. Silence's burned ribs stuck above waves like broken crown. Kraken ended. Back at King's Landing, tunnels cracked open. Water surged, flooding barley rows, then under walls. Builders panicked as new aqueduct joints groaned. At midday market, fountain water turned brown, then smelled of rot. People wailed, "Dragons poison water." Sansa dispatched engineers. They traced rupture to fields. Grey Worm led patrol. They arrived to find Ashbound wailing innocents. Overseer drowned. Cersei nowhere. Tunnel gaped. Grey Worm descended, spear forward. The passage snaked toward city cisterns. He found collapsed section choked by stolen wildfire jar, half spilled, soaked by water, inert yet stinking death. Nearby, Cersei's chain lay broken, filed through, acid maybe. Footprints led onward. Grey Worm ordered pursuit. Cersei emerged after nightfall inside cellar beneath an abandoned clothier near Street of Flower. She donned plain cloak stored days earlier. She heard chaos outside, rumors of poisoned fountains. Perfect. She needed allies. She would ignite memory of Mad King's terror, blame dragons. But inside clothier waited shadow. Arya Stark stepped from dark, needle's point at Lion's throat. "Hello, Queen." Cersei's breath caught. She lunged for hidden dagger, but Arya flicked wrist. Steel nicked cheek. "You've run enough. I have yet to start." Cersei smiled blood. "Kill me, else I kill your queen." Arya's eyes glimmered.
No.
"You'll face her judgment again." Behind, Grey Worm entered, unsullied spears hemming. Cersei laughed, a brittle bark, but allowed shackles once more. Ashbound dream ended. Weeks passed. Grain silos repaired, water purified with charcoal. Dragonbone coin stabilized markets. Connington's letter surrendered Storm's End. Aegon fled north toward Bitterbridge, Sel's words deserting. Euron's fleet drifted ruins. Survivors captured by Davos's blockade faced trial. Daenerys returned, greeted by cheers. Regal's wound healing, Viserion's brace removed. Council hailed victory, yet mourning counted too. Dockworkers lost to exploding pitch, sailors drowned in green tides. The Queen decreed day of remembrance. Bells tolled low and solemn. In small hall, final session of Provisional Council convened. Seats now held by confirmed lords, elected burgesses, septons, and free folk delegate named Tormund Giantsbane, who lounged uncomfortably in chair. Tyrion rose with scroll. Charter for realms reformed governance. Council ruling monarchy where queen advises but law ratified by assembly. Debate sparked hours. Finally, parchment signed by 9 of 12, enough to adopt. Daenerys affixed dragon seal. She turned to Varys. "You wove web well." He bowed. "I serve realm, yet webs grow old. I ask leave to retire." "Where?" "Some quiet isle where wind tells only gulls' tales." She smiled. "When peace holds, you may. Until then, rest, but stay near." She named Sansa Stark Warden of the East to reside half-year in capital-shaping law. Jon Snow named Protector of the Realm's Rivers. Grey Worm appointed Lord Commander of Queen's Guard, healing thigh notwithstanding. Tyrion accepted pin of hand, at last, with heavy sigh. May the shape of our realm outlast my mistakes. Council adjourned as first winter snow drifted. Delicate flakes over war-scarred city. Children rushed to catch them on tongues. Above, 3 dragons carved lazy arcs, white flakes sizzling on scales. In his tower, Varys scribbled final ledger entry. Web secure for now. Dragons guard from above. People rebuild below. Truth still fragile, yet stronger for being shared. He closed book, set quill aside, and for first time in years, slept without dreams of green fire. Outside, the realm exhaled. Peace, uneasy, imperfect, but alive, spread like dawn's pale rose across charred stones, promising a day when stories of lions and dragons would be told not as laments but as warnings heeded. Between those lines, a spider's tail would glimmer, quiet, unseen, yet enduring in the strength of the web it left behind.